Well, Flash, once again, it looks like you're the bottom, and I'm the top.
Yo, wait, hold on.
All right. In the context.
Wait, yo, hold on.
In the context.
Well, I was wrong. The Flash is one of my favorite superheroes of all time. His superpower is running at super speed. When you're a kid, that's like the coolest shit ever. I grew up watching the Wally West version from the Justice League cartoon, read his stories my whole life, watched the TV show for years. Yeah, I gotta talk about this show one day. So yeah, I'm a pretty big Flash fan. When they announced that a Flash movie would be released in 2016? Damn, that long ago? I was hyped as hell. Then I saw the Justice League, and I didn't like it. Then I saw the Snyder Cut, and I liked the movie, but I still didn't like Ezra Miller's Flash. Then the movie went through script changes, director changes, multiple release date pushbacks, a whole ass pandemic. Some stuff going on with the lead actor. Real quick, because it's going to be an elephant in the room if I avoid this, I'm not going to go too deep into all the Ezra Miller stuff here, because ultimately this is a review of a movie, and one person does not make a movie. I've read up on some of the stuff that went down, and some of it looks bad. Some of it looks like it may not have been how it went down. At least what was reported may not have been how it went down. I do know that it was reported that Miller's working on their mental health, but ultimately I didn't really feel comfortable talking about that stuff via this medium, but I still wanted to address it because how could you not? Anyway, back to the video. So I really wasn't expecting the movie to somehow survive all the stuff working against it. And it still somehow wound up possibly being one of the best superhero movies I've ever seen. It's definitely the best DCEU movie I've ever seen. The story is an adaptation of the Flashpoint paradox from the comic books. For those of you who don't read those, you should. Basically, the Flash goes back in time to save his mom from her tragic death and inadvertently creates a world without superheroes, including himself, who loses his powers. This is pretty bad, as General Zod, who you might remember from Man of Steel, is not only now alive again, but is once again invading the world with no Superman to protect it. So he's got to team up with his younger self, this new world's Batman, and someone very different from Superman to save the day. The Flashpoint paradox is the Flash's most popular story, and you can tell because it's been adapted like 3 times now. That's part of the reason why I wasn't really looking forward to it. I always felt like Flashpoint should be a story you save for like a second or third Flash movie when he's more established as a character, and the audience has really been given time to care about him and the people in his life. Up until now, we've only seen the Flash as a side character, mostly relegated to jokes about how lame and lonely he is.
Is this a bad time to bring up my blood sugar? Very hungry.
So then, there must be a nest nearby.
Oh, wow, they really just vanished. Huh? Oh, that's rude. Well, we gotta stop them.
That's the plan.
That's the plan. Okay, we're not ready for racially charged.
So I am just a black hole of snacks. I am a snack hole.
I need friends.
But I gotta give it to Christina Hodson. She must have the golden pen or something, because she wrote a screenplay that is not only a stealth origins movie for the Flash, where we actually learn details about this Flash and how he got his powers, but she also found a way to actually give this Flash some believable emotional weight, and even mature some by the end of the movie. Giving him an even more immature version of himself to bounce off of really helped. And even the more immature Barry goes through his own mini character arc and ends in a place that struck me hard. Credit to Ezra Miller. There's a few scenes where they're just acting off themselves and you'd never guess that it's just them in a room by themselves. Speaking of Miller's performance, maybe they finally got the right combo of directing and writing for this version of Barry, because somehow, despite this definitely being the same Flash from the Justice League and the Snyder Cut, he finally grew on me here. I watched the whole movie and didn't cringe at anything he said or did once. I genuinely cared when stuff happened to him and the emotional ringer he got put through. I don't know, maybe I just saw this movie at the exact right time, but the stuff between Barry and his mom really got to me. Barry's mom is played by Maribel Verdú, and you would have thought Ezra Miller was a kid for real with how solid her performance was. We're basically just being introduced to Nora Allen, and in just a few minutes, you see why Barry is willing to risk breaking the timeline just to see his mom again. I'm sure a lot of people can relate to wanting to see their mom one more time. I'm not afraid to admit, I almost teared up during their scenes. You know, I didn't though. Cause you know, I'm a G. G's don't cry.
That's what I'm talking about. This shit means something to me, man.
Sasha Calle did her thing as Supergirl too. I wouldn't mind seeing her pop up somewhere again. It's pretty cool to finally have a comics accurate Supergirl on the big screen. Melissa Benoist was great in the Supergirl TV show, but she was kinda done dirty because they basically made her Kara a girl version of Clark. Kara isn't really supposed to be that. She's a warrior. She's got anger issues. Shit, sometimes she doesn't even really like people. It was very nostalgic to see Michael Keaton's Batman again, even though I'm probably not as big a fan of his movies as other people are. Not saying they aren't good, but you know, I was never really crazy about his specific version of Batman. At that time, I was mostly into the cartoon.
The Joker's girl squirted on me.
Get this man to a hospital, now!
What?
Keaton did a dope job stepping into those bat boots again. He was very different from the Batman that was in the Flashpoint story, but it still worked. It was also cool to see his 90s Batman in fight scenes with today's technology and filming techniques. Speaking of, all the scenes where Flash is moving at super speed were amazing. There's a scene early on where he's saving a bunch of babies falling out of a hospital, but he's also low on energy, so he's got to save them and eat at the same time. That straight up blew me away. I'm not exaggerating when I say it's probably one of my favorite superhero movie scenes ever. The score was fire too. Another thing that surprisingly worked for me with this movie was its sense of humor. Now, DC movies haven't exactly always been known for being very lighthearted or comedic, but there were multiple times while watching this where I audibly laughed. Not just chuckle, but like actually ha-ha'd. It wasn't like MCU kind of humor too, it was a kind of humor that really worked for this movie and its tone. Sometimes the CG was a little shaky, but it never got bad enough to take me out of the film. Like I said before, I was unsure about doing the Flashpoint story this soon, but with the way it ended and with James Gunn's new vision for the DCEU on the horizon, I see why they went in the direction they did now. There was also one glaring event that they didn't really expand on and kind of left hanging, but maybe it'll be addressed whenever the next Flash movie comes out. Maybe I was in the exact mindset to enjoy this movie at the right time. I don't know. All I know is this movie really hit all the right emotional and entertaining beats for me. At the end of the day, this was a story about a guy that just wants to save his mom. It got to me. I'm giving this movie a 4.5 out of 5. And hey, if you haven't in a while, call your mom. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget to click that little bell thing too so that you know when a new video is up. Until next time, peace.